Hallo en welkom terug by Ruhmoer, die podcast vir vars vrae in jou moedertaal. So what if the thing your doctor can't fix can be fixed with a boederraad? The kind of thing passed down, sometimes forgotten, and now finding its place again in modern health conversations. Today, we're talking about herbalism, real herbalism, not the quick fix or the trend, but a way of working with nature to support the body, from hormone health to period pain to clean living and chemical-free choices. Plants definitely have a role to play in today's world. Here with us is Chantelle. She once worked in the beauty industry, but in 2018 she made quite a shift. She chose a much slower, more nature-centered life. At first, she was just cautious about pharmaceuticals, but as the story goes, by 2020, she discovered something a little bit deeper, which is that healing it's not always about fixing, it's about reconnecting. So she began exploring plant medicine, energy work, and the kind of wisdom that listens to your body. And around about 2023, she immersed herself fully in studying herbs. And now she helps others to do the same, to find a little bit of stillness and live more simply. Chantelle considers plants her reminders of balance, of rhythm, and of the fact that our bodies were never meant to separate from nature. Chantelle, thank you for joining us. I'm going to hand over to Alnika to start us off with a question.
Thank you.
Hi, Chantelle. So, my first question is: Are you a registered herbalist at any
Creditors.
Yeah.
So I have certificates, and I've done most of my research and studies online. So on online courses and profiles. And within that, I kind of just started to go and deep dive and research things more extensively beyond what the studies were giving me, just to really make sure that I understood plants in the way that I wanted to work with them. From an energetic space, I kind of went a different route with the herbs as well. For example, anytime I introduce a new herb into my catalog, for example, I will pretty much fast for 24 hours, and then I will consume the herb and I meditate and connect with the herb. And that's kind of been where my approach started. And then I will deep dive and research that herb on the science-based side to really obviously understand that factor, which is very important. But yeah, a little bit of a different approach, I feel, to most people with herbalism and really just connecting with the plant itself.
Okay, so is it safe to say that you are aware from the research and the studies you've done, you're aware of how the herb you choose for anyone can interact with Western medicine?
Yes, and that's something that's very, very important. Obviously, even as a beautician, we learn about contraindications quite early on in the beauty side of things. So it's something that's always been drilled into me. You need to understand that if you are consuming something, putting something topically, if it's going to go into your body, if it has a job to do, what is it going to do and interact with other pharmaceuticals that's gone into the body, specifically your antidepressants, if someone is on the contraceptive pill, if someone has allergies. So all of this falls under the contraindication bracket. That definitely needs to be researched very well.
Yeah. So I'm so intrigued by the fact that you fast before. Can you give us a little bit of why? I can understand that perhaps to get the most intense experience, well, not experience from it, like the, what do you call it? Die mees duidelikste ervaring van wat dit eintlik vir mens doen. This will be an Afrikaans switch English conversation, so whoever's listening, enjoy. But yeah, why do you fast?
So obviously, again, there's also certain herbs that you can't fast when used on an empty belly. So taking those into consideration. But essentially for me, the body then has no other processes to focus on. Doesn't need to digest. It doesn't need to have the liver process anything that I've consumed in. The gallbladder doesn't need to do anything. The kidney doesn't have to do anything. So 24 hours gives it enough time, I feel, to finish all of the processes that it needs to and wants to focus on, and then it gets to a cellular healing process. So now when I consume the herb, I can feel, is it increasing my body heat or is it cooling me down? Is it affecting my digestive system? Can I actively feel my metabolism is starting to change and have a conversation? Do I feel that my mind is calming down? So it's very important for me to already do a body scan and get honest and clear with where I'm at even before I consume it, now that I've done the 24-hour fast. And then once I take it in, it's pretty much just sitting and really noting everything that I feel and changes. If there's anything that's instant, does it maybe come later on? So just to connect with in that way. On an energetic level, I will then communicate with the energy of the plant and I'll ask it, what is it that you would want to be used for? I often start off by first thanking everyone that planted the plant, harvested the plant, got it to the end product that I have, and really just honoring the plant for what it's about to do for myself or for someone else. And then I kind of just ask it, what do you want to do? And how can I use you to your best ability? And I see what comes up.
Yes.
This is very interesting, and okay, so it's clear that you take a more spiritual approach to the healing, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm sure Anlu's not opposed to it, but do you have some clients that have a more conservative perspective on life? And how do you, okay, it's two questions. How do you determine the dosages to a person? Because obviously everyone reacts differently. And so how do you determine that? And when you have a very conservative client, is it like I don't know, how do you approach that?
Yeah, because I can't see somebody like my parents going, "Oh, you ask the plant what it wants to do." Like,
no, obviously within the research, there is a recommended dosage for each plant. So that does get taken into consideration, and specifically when I turn it into a tincture, which is when it's in its most potent form. So then dosage does matter, and then that will always be introduced in a very gentle way with the amount that you use, and you will progressively increase it over time to its max dosage allowance. So that definitely does get taken into consideration. Listen, I don't talk to clients the way I'm now explaining this. I think people understand that this is how I approach it, with science and spirituality combined. But I do feel it's a bridge between that Western science and old wisdom that we haven't even tapped into yet. So for me, it's kind of a bridge between the two and approaching it in that way. But I will always start with, most of the time, with tea, because tea is so gentle. And it's something that you do need to take more consistently on a daily basis for a long period before you get even results. So firstly, people will understand that, listen, this is going to be a slow process. And for me, the plants teach you to slow down, to check in with yourself, to tune in, what is it that my body needs, and to remember that our body is a beautiful healing machine. It has all of the wisdom to do it itself. So we're really just using plants as allies to balance or to assist the body with where it's struggling to do a function. So that's where herbalism comes in for me. It's not something that's going to treat and cure as the main goal. It's like, how can we find an overall balance and assist in that way to prevent having illnesses rather than waiting for it to happen and then having to cure it with herbalism, because that is tough and that will take a long time to do, and not everyone's up for that.
Yeah. Sorry, Anne. Sorry. I know there are some, so they actually wanted to legalize psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms in America, to use as a
PTSD?
PTSD, yes. As a medicine for PTSD, and it's actually, it didn't get approved, but whatever. They're still doing the studies and trying to...
It has been approved in Israel and Canada, so both of those countries are using them already.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know about those two countries. So psilocybin is seen as a drug, and like it's a difficult thing because from the research I've done, sorry, from the research. Connie, goodness. Okay.
You know this is going to be funny if Almika starts laughing.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, I actually wanted to say something else. Anyway, I'll tell you afterwards. So from the research I've done, psilocybin can be used for a lot of things, and it's really good for your brain. Even if you I almost said macrodose. Don't macrodose psilocybin unsupervised. Anyway, research once again. If you if you take it as a microdose for about you take it in intervals, for instance, it actually improves your like dis soos paadjies in jou brein wat noem mense dit it improves that. Yes. Dankie. It improves that, and I think that's incredible. Why not give that to someone instead of forcing them to drink chemical stuff just so that they can focus?
Yeah, I think that's where my original sense of disconnect with pharmaceutical industry has become, because it kind of just always felt like it did stem from wanting to make money off people, and that the more sick people are, the more money they make, because then the more drugs they need. And most of them have side effects, which then puts you on another one, which puts you on another one. And that was kind of my disconnect, where I was just like, this doesn't sound or feel right to how I feel I should be approaching my health. And yeah, listen, if psilocybin can be for dementia, for many things, actually, there's so many studies that they can improve those disorders, or what do you call it? Not diseases, but disorders.
Talk to us a little bit about these remedies that you mentioned. Like, what I know you've on your page, and we'll link it a little bit later as well. You quite often refer to, for example, things that help with period pains and help throughout the female cycle. What interesting remedies are there that it's often difficult for people to imagine? Oh, I'm going to make a tea, but what are the actual uses? Where can you actually help incorporate these types of herbs?
So I really deep dived into the cycle, because I wanted to try and figure out what in my cycle as a whole is causing me to have such excessive bleeding, such long periods, such pain, to the point where it was debilitating me. And it really became clear that you need to treat every single phase and help and assist every single phase of the cycle, because there's such a variety of what the hormones are doing, being released up and down. So, the question started like, okay, if in my menstrual cycle, where, our body is at its lowest when it comes to hormones, your estrogen is at its lowest, your progesterone is at its lowest. But if you have, for example, tender breasts, then that can be an indication that your estrogen is too high. So that means that when we get to the menstrual cycle phase, the estrogen hasn't actually dropped. And why is that? That can be due to stress. That can be due to food that you're consuming that contains plant materials that have phytoestrogen, so they mimic estrogen. That can be due to microplastics, because microplastics can mimic estrogen. So then the body doesn't know how to process it and break it down, and it just stores it in fat, but it mimics estrogen. So your estrogen levels stay high. So this can be causing the tender breast. So then I started finding which herbs is going to help balance those factors out for me and help balance the estrogen levels. And then you can start to connect it to, okay, what does each cycle need? In my follicular cycle, you want to increase your energy, because this is where all the focus is on your ovulation that's coming up. So everything is going to be about starting to thicken there's a fly, uterus wall. And you want to promote that energy within your body. So if you're feeling a bit depleted in your follicular phase, it means a lot of your nutrients that was lost within your menstrual cycle isn't regaining in your body lifestyle, your food isn't actually providing those nutrients to now go back into a heightened energy state. So now I can use herbs that's going to help me with that, whether it's things like ginseng, which helps to give your mental boost, bodily energy as well. So yeah, it's sitting, and it's quite complicated, and it can be so different for everybody's cycle. And I think that's where, when I realized, sure, this is something that's quite intricate, because everything that we're doing is affecting our hormones so much. There's so many things that's disrupting our hormones, and women's body is going to respond completely different depending on their lifestyle. But I created a very basic cycle flow tea blend that works with the average woman's body, and it's really just making sure estrogen is released when it's needing to be released. Estrogen is being flushed out when it needs to be flushed out. We're providing minerals and electrolytes to the body so that you're not deficient in the salts and the electrolytes that you need for the functions to happen. So then it gets fun. So you can just like play around.
This is very interesting, and you now mentioned it, so I'm gonna ask you. So
Yeah.
You mentioned your own cycle. Did you go the Western route before you tried the herbal route?
Yeah, as a teenager, I went onto the contraceptive. Didn't resonate with it, didn't feel like it was working. It didn't work for the pain that I had at all, and kind of started really giving me irregular periods, where before I would have a consistent period. It was just a very tough period to have. But with the contraceptive pill, I started getting super irregular, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm not going to go on that. And then in 2012, I went overseas and I met an acupuncturist, and that's when I started going into the eastern side of how I'm able to help my body. The acupuncture in itself already reduced it from being a 10-day cycle every month to being a 7-day cycle. So it reduced at least the time period. The pain started being a bit more minimal, but I tend to still have, up until recently, where it's starting to get better, but I still had one really severe period cycle and then one a peaky calmer, but not much. And now it's kind of like it's the same level. I know what to expect. And I'm also able to honor my body in slowing down during my cycle, which was a big thing. I think my cycle wanted to teach women again how to slow down and live within our flow of our cycle, and not like men who are cyclical and they get energy in the morning, energy is finished at the end of the day, energy again in the morning, energy is finished at the end of the day. We're like very different.
They're so lucky.
But it's all good.
So I actually wanted to ask you, I'm going to share a little bit about myself, and the people that know me personally know this, and I've talked a little bit about it on Ruhmoer.
Mm-hmm.
So I also actually was on the pill when I was grade 10 or 11. I started on the pill, and I stopped my 3rd year of varsity, and I was put on the pill for my skin, not because I've never had period pains or any like a heavy flow. It's like I've never had that. And after I went off the pill, I felt something was wrong. Like I just had a feeling. I was like, no, I need to get this looked at. And I know there are some studies that say, for instance, when you get off the pill after a long period of time, you need to wait at least 6 months before you start to think, okay, something is not lekker. And then I waited 6 months and something was not lekker. So I went to the doctor, a Western doctor, and I got diagnosed with PCOS. So interesting fact, the amount of females that are getting diagnosed with PCOS and endometriosis are increasing.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, I've asked so many people about this. No one actually knows the origin of it. No one knows why. My feeling and my mother's feeling is that it's got to do with our environment and how we eat, the type of food we eat, even if you eat only vegetables and meat and fruit, they still have
We need to get a little cut in here that goes microplastics.
not just that, but they still have hormones in them because a farmer will put anyway. So I got diagnosed with PCOS, and I started seeing my mother goes to a hormone doctor. She went into early menopause, and I went to the same doctor, and he gives us, my mother also drinks it, but he gives us bioidentical hormones. So I don't have progesterone in my body, like literally almost nothing. So I drink progesterone. And then there's other stuff, like because of the hormone imbalance, I need to drink iron because my iron is low. And like I go through depressive moods. Not necessarily, but it's because of the hormone imbalance. So I drink 5-HTP, which is a natural extract, actually. I drink ashwagandha to bring down my cortisol. Anyway, so it really works for me.
Yeah.
And it's not the reason we go to this doctor is because of the bioidentical hormones. If you go to I want to say a normal doctor, but he is a doctor anyway. But I want to say a normal doctor. If you go to a normal doctor, they give you hormones, but it's synthetic hormones. Is there, if someone like me would come to you and say all this stuff to you, is there a plant or a herb or a oil one can use instead of the bioidentical hormones?
Yes, absolutely. Before I say it, I will say, for me, in the research that I've done and with some of the Chinese doctors and Eastern side that I've studied, a lot of the PCOS is often related to a metabolic disorder. And because our metabolism and our hormones go hand in hand, it affects our hormones. And the scary thing is everything you've mentioned and more. The perfume that you're wearing are often hormone disruptors. Our deodorant that we're placing on our armpits, which is very close to our female hormones, reproductive system, everything gets affected. So it's more than even just the food and the lifestyle at this point. It's topical, internal, external, all combined. But it's a metabolic disorder. So the plant that I will suggest for anyone with estrogen concerns is red clover. And red clover mimics estrogen, but it has a balancing effect. So whether your body has too much or too little, it is going to come and just let the body know, like, hey, you need to be releasing this plant estrogen, and the amount needs to be normal. It just has that communicative ability to do that. So red clover is my number one. It's in most of my cycle mixes, and because of its ability to help regulate your estrogen levels. So that one will help a lot. And you can take that in tea form. It will take a long time before it starts to affect, obviously, again. But you can then go for the tincture, which is a bit more of a higher dose and more concentrated. And that one you'll have effects within about 2 weeks to a month already, where you can feel difference in your next cycle.
So you would suggest someone to rather drink something that will balance their estrogen instead of increase their progesterone?
Yeah, so if your estrogen is too high, then it starts to suppress your progesterone. So then it does start to affect the progesterone being released as well. And the red clover will also help with the progesterone, but its main function is going to be for estrogen. It just naturally has an additional factor that it starts to balance out your progesterone because your estrogen levels are starting to be released. And the fact that you're taking the ashwagandha is very important, because oftentimes when our body is in that stress level of all of the hormone disruptor chemicals that we are consuming, it kind of blocks off your pituitary gland, it blocks off your adrenals from being able to release what the hormones is they need to release. So it goes hand in hand, being able to then take things like lemon balm, which is a beautiful plant, one of my favorite that I drink for my ADHD. And it has a very calming effect on the brain, but it kind of creates this protective layer, same with scaletium, around your pituitary gland. And it kind of just says no to the cortisol levels that's telling your pituitary gland, like, no, we're in stress mode. We don't have time to focus on hormones because I need to fight, flight, or freeze. That's my focus. Lemon balm, ashwagandha, they'll just go and be like, everything's okay. We can still...
It actually brings down your cortisol. So if you do blood tests, which I've done several times, if you have high stress, this is the weird thing. Like, I'm not a person that's stressed, or I'm not anxious or agitated, but my cortisol's like sky high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your body's just trying to figure out why the estrogen is not being released. So then cortisol is normal because your body is stressed. So even though you might not be mentally stressed, your body will be getting physical stress. And then that does also affect it. But they've done tests on red clover specifically, and it improved women with menopause even. It improved their hot flushes and night sweats by 30 to 50%. So red clover is one of
my mother.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite plants for women is red clover, raspberry leaf, very, very beautiful plant. It'll help to tone the uterus lining. It helps also the progesterone levels because progesterone is needed to get the thickening of your uterus lining. So without the progesterone, your uterus isn't actually thickening, and that can cause an array of problems as well. So raspberry leaf is something that women were in ancient times already given during their third trimester, just to start help the uterus be ready for delivery and to keep it healthy. And then they drink it afterwards to help recover with the pregnancy as well.
Sure. This is fascinating. I'm so intrigued. Okay, so you mentioned earlier the importance of living according to your cycle as well. So I don't want to move on from the point of cycles yet. I noticed first, I'm generally, people who know me as well, they know I'm quite analytic and to the point and straightforward, and I don't like necessarily airy-fairy things. So I used to always think, oh, you know what, your cycle, it's a thing, but come now, I'm Anlu, like I can deal with this. Whatever I want to do, that's happening.
My mind is
just by the way, when Anlu mentioned her parents weren't necessarily... she's also a little bit like that.
Yeah, but I think from a different, not necessarily from the conservative side, but more just my brain doesn't necessarily work that way. But I try to integrate that as well actively. So when I broke my wrist a couple months ago, after the operation, my cycle was late. And that was the light on moment for me when I realized, listen, but this is actually something that like your body feels it. And then I started noticing more and more how like conscious I need to be about this type of thing. And I think so few women today are actually conscious about it. So I was wondering, can you maybe take us through the cycle a little bit? Explain the phases to us. What is it that a woman's body goes through when she goes through her cycle?
Oh, okay, cool. Where to start? Let's go into the beginning. Let's go at luteal phase just before your menstrual phase. So in your luteal phase, this is where estrogen is going to start to increase. Your body's getting ready to start thickening that uterus lining that you have to get ready for the baby and being able to hold the baby. And your progesterone levels at the end of your luteal phase is also going to start to be at its peak. Again, progesterone is needed to get that uterus nice and thick. So in that time, you will start to feel PMS signals if you have too much estrogen. So that's when the mood swings will start to happen. It does prevent you from being able to stay in a calm state of mind because the cortisol levels will also skyrocket if your estrogen also goes up as well. So then they start to affect that. But the metabolism in your luteal phase speeds up. So this is actually a really good period because it's also our longest phase of our 4 cycles. So your luteal can be up to 2 weeks long. So for most of our life, we're actually spending our time in our luteal phase. And this is where your metabolism is nice and high. So you can start to incorporate things like weight exercises, doing yoga poses where you're holding the position for a long period and then relaxing. But weightlifting and doing things like holding positions for long periods helps your body to release the estrogen so that it's not too high. Estrogen needs to start going a bit down as we get closer to the menstrual cycle. So if you don't work out, if you're not very active in your luteal phase, that's where we tend to be a bit more aggressive. We get angry, but it's almost this pent-up energy in your body that's like, I just want to move, I just want to do things. And if you're not doing things because maybe mentally you're starting to get PMS signals that your period is coming up, and that kind of puts you in a survival state to then not actually use that energy up, but you want to use that energy. So that's a really good time to be very active in a sense of weights for your body. I would say it's the autumn of the cycles of your body. So your luteal phase, you're in your autumn phase. Then you're starting to transition over to your menstrual cycle. And this is where your hormones are at the lowest. So everything starts to drop and plummet at the end of the luteal phase, the progesterone, the testosterone, as well as your estrogen. All of that drops to its lowest once you've now reached your menstrual cycle. So this is now your winter phase. It's where your body wants to rest and recuperate. So I almost received in my severe pain sense that it was teaching us to slow down during that cycle, to not be so go, 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 go. Because anytime that I force myself to be in that go, go, go state, my period is worse. But if I already preemptively, like 2 days before I know my cycle is about to start, if I start to slow down and I honor that, my cycle is super easy. So I've also realized that it's also just communicating it in that way. So relaxed movements, you want to do yin yoga, you want to do slow walking. So really a slow down period for your body, because if you are where metabolism is now low, you don't have the hormones to, keep you bubbly and active, and you're trying to force against it, you are depleting minerals and resources within your body. So that's going to make the period worse. And that's going to make it, when you now start to transition out of your menstrual into your follicular phase, it's going to make you be very tired in your follicular phase, where this is your time to like thrive, be fertile. So your follicular phase will then become your spring time period. So this is where your energy level starts to go up, estrogen starts to being released again a bit more. But in the beginning of it, your hormones are still laying low. So it's only happening kind of like in the middle of that follicular phase where your hormones are being released again. So if you didn't take the rest, you're going to be super depleted in your follicular phase because you don't have all the minerals and things that you need. So your metabolism is slower. And this is where I found in my follicular phase that eating things like complex carbs, so sweet potato, potatoes and fruits, but all in their complex carbs, are going to provide me the energy I need to support that phase. And that's where I start to introduce things like ginseng, which then helps my body get the energy that it needs. Stinging nettle, which is an electrolyte, is very high in calcium and magnesium and iron. So you've just bled. Now you're starting to your body wants to increase again. So we're just going to help give it back the minerals that it needs in order to sustain the functions that it's meant to be doing. So again, we don't want to change functions. We really just want to assist the functions through the herbs and things that we choose. So then you go into your ovulation, and this is our most flirtiest phase. It's also our most fertile phase. So you're going to be very energetic. It's the summer. Your estrogen has really started surging. The luteal hormone starts to be released for the ovum. So your body it wants to get going. It wants to do things. It's feeling, like bring it on is kind of the energy in your ovulation phase.
Thank you, evolution.
Yes. But because of the hormones that's active in that period and estrogen starting to surge, you kind of feel this mental surge as well. So it's a great time for socializing, communication, coming up with creative ideas, because everything in your body supports that for you. So that's where it's a really go, go, go time for getting everything solid for work, planning any social events with your friends and family, I would say do it in ovulation.
My boss is going to have to adjust my work schedule.
Yeah,
I actually just thought the same thing.
I'm very grateful that at this point in my life, I'm very much flowing with my cycle. So when I'm on my cycle, I don't do treatments. I'm very much slowed down. I'll take 2 days where I really just go internal. It's a place for me to process things that maybe come up during your luteal phase, because luteal phase loves to bring up everything that annoys you, everything that angers you. And there's a reason for it, because you're about to go in your menstrual cycle where you can now deal and sit and internalize all of these things that's coming up. So it wants you to slow down, because you're not meant to give energy outwards, you're meant to give energy inwards and really just play with it.
Fascinating. So I want to touch on the subject of microplastics, but you mentioned such a beautiful thing where you have to also deal with these stuff that with the stuff that comes up. And you mentioned earlier that you realized it's such an intricate process of also finding something that works for a specific person. Everybody's cycle is different, but also everybody's perhaps like people need different remedies and different amounts of it, and not just I don't necessarily just mean like the actual amount of it. But this is really, it sounds like it's a journey that you go on with people to also find the remedies for them. But what has this done for you? How is it, like, obviously you have a passion for this, but what value do you find in it to also enable other people to see how these herbs can help?
I think, well, the very first time I got really fueled by this was I wanted to stick it to the man. And then it started coming up just like we've really just not been taught how to live life as women. Everything has always been based on studies that's been done on men, how they've been working, how they function, and also from a very productive, produce side. And I wanted to teach women that you are able to be supported financially, abundantly in all aspects of your life if you still honor and listen to your body and flow with your body. And they've started doing research on this, and they did find that majority of women are more productive in that follicular and ovulation phase if they did slow down in their menstrual phase. So we're able to produce far more and work a bit more effectively if we actually do flow with our cycle instead of going against it. So I think that was just where I wanted to teach women that, hey, slowing down doesn't mean lazy. Slowing down doesn't mean that you won't be able to achieve everything that you need to achieve within a month. But choose when to do what and see what it does to your mood, to your sense of how you view life, to the sense of how you feel going through life. And that's important. Like I'm done masking to just continue existing. Like I really want to thrive in my living, and I want to enjoy life. I feel like as humans, we didn't come here to be this working machine. We came here to show each individual human its unique way of expressing a variety of way of living, and to live from that aspect. And living with our cycle is where I feel is the key root or the foundation of doing that. And we're not meant to struggle with periods that's so bad. We're not meant to have all of this endometriosis numbers going up and PCOS numbers going up. This is not normal. It shouldn't be just accepted. And if we continue the way we're continuing right now, where we're just taking pills to mask the pain, and where's it going to change? Like, what is going to happen to our daughters? Our daughters are starting to get their menstrual at 8 and 9 years old. That's not okay. That's not normal. And we're just accepting it. And a part of me gets very furious within when I think about that, and that everyone is just accepting that and that it's not okay.
It's totally true what you're saying. I got a little bit of goosebumps right now.
Because I'm like, no, I didn't even think of my daughter. Like, I'm like, I can take a pain pill, I'll be fine.
Whoa.
But shit, yo, I didn't think of that.
Well, it's not just about the daughters, it's about the the young girls that are living right now, not our daughters,
Yeah.
that's still to come.
Yeah.
The problem is, and I thought about it when Anu asked her question, you can't force someone to notice that how they are living is not working with their cycle. So
Mm.
how do you get someone to be aware of that? Because okay, yes, we are doing this, but we only have like 43 subscribers on YouTube. So because it's a thing, it's a it's a real thing where I can't go to someone on the streets and say, "Hey, are you in this phase? Because you should calm down." Or it's a difficult thing. We're going against the flow, ironically, of the rest of the world if we say that there's a reason why females have this cycle, and all the 4 seasons of the cycle works differently on our bodies. And so, how do you get someone to be aware of it?
I think the first thing I do, which is what I did, is to start journaling. And I write down every day how I feel, what am I picking up from my body, so that I can get the key factors. Okay, ovulation. Am I seeing a discharge? Okay, great. Now I know for a fact I'm in my ovulation. Is my breast becoming tender? Okay, great. This can be already in the luteal phase. And now I already know that if my breasts are tender, then estrogen is too high. So now I can note that down as well. When my menstrual cycle starts, I write it down. I note how long it takes, and I just get clear with it, at least on that level, and just write down all of the things that I notice. If in my cycle I feel I'm very depleted in this particular, there was a while where my follicular phase, which is usually one of my energeticest phases, I was exhausted. And then I realized, just because I stopped having severe pain in my menstrual and I then started being go, 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 go again, because now I'm not in pain, so I'm not being forced to slow down. I am absolutely exhausted in my follicular phase. And this is the phase where I plan to do so many things, but I don't have the capacity to do that. Why? But then if I look back in my journal, I went surfing almost every single day on my menstrual cycle. And cold
Surfing
water.
gets mentioned in this podcast every single episode.
Best thing in life. But the cold water during your menstrual cycle, cold water plunging is very good for you, and I believe in it, but it's not supposed to happen during your menstrual cycle. It just spikes your
Also
cortisol
not
level.
as yeah.
Yeah,
Also not
spikes.
as cold. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Like men can handle colder water than females can. So we can.
Yeah.
It will feel like like a, I almost want to say low warm water op jou hand, but on your body it will be cold. That's like the perfect temperature for females for a
Yeah,
cold
and if
plunge.
you are going to do cold water therapy for a woman, but men as well, I do believe that. But you do need to mentally prepare your body, and you do need to let your nervous system know what is about to happen. You can't just go, I'm about to climb in that ice bucket, but I haven't done any breath work or prepped my body pre-hand. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hyperventilate, and I'm just going to send my body into a severe survival state. But yay, I've done cold water plunging. I'm succeeding.
This is so funny. Yes. And what's funny is, like, I don't know if you know Ruhmoer, but he does the breathing thing most of the time with the cold water. It's so important to
Very.
focus on your breathing when you're doing this cold exposure, because you're literally going into shock when you go into that cold water. Trust me, I've done it before. It's like,
Yeah.
and then you're like, no.
That fast breathing triggers your your sympathetic nervous system. So now, instead of being in a rest and digest calm state, you're in survival state. And that is the complete opposite of essentially what you want to do when you go in the cold waters. You want to go in there in a parasympathetic state. And that's where you start to build resilience within your body. Now you're starting to teach your body that even if cortisol rises because it's cold and uncomfortable, your nervous system is communicating to your body, I am safe and it's okay. And therefore your body can start to get the noradrenaline being pumped out, and then everything can calm down again. But if you don't do that and you're now just spiking it all, and then afterwards, again, not a lot of people are going to do something to let that cortisol go back down, you're doing more damage. And the nervous system plays another massive role for women in our cycle. So if your nervous system doesn't have time to be in rest and digest, then your pituitary gland isn't in a safe space to release and the signals of, hey, these hormones need to be released. So the nervous system is also another aspect that I take very, very vital role in everything that I do when I work with the women.
I wanted to raise exactly that point. I know in your treatments you do a nervous system reset. Talk to us a little bit about that. What is it? Why is it important? Why is it something that we should incorporate in our lives?
So on a daily practice, something people can do every single day, especially since we are, getting stresses all day, every day with work and family and emotions and all kinds of things. But it essentially is the switch to help you immediately go from sympathetic nervous system to a parasympathetic nervous system. So if you don't create that space for you in a day, and people are constantly living in a chronic stress environment where they're constantly in a sympathetic nervous system, then there's a lot of hormones and metabolism factors that just cannot seem to happen. So when I do the treatment, it's a very slowed down treatment. I am basically inviting your body to switch into a very slowed, relaxed state. And the areas that I work on is your vagus nerve, which obviously also helps to relax the nervous system. So it's really just working with facial muscles where cortisol often gets stored, expressions that, if you're stressed, but you can't express that because you have to smile, you're in hospitality, but you're actually severely angry, all of that gets stored and it does show up in your face. And it's quite beautiful to see how people's faces change after one session. And that is just letting the cortisol be drained away, letting the fascia receive new flow of oxygen, new blood, and then letting the nervous system know, like, hey, you actually can switch to rest and digest. And I've had people with constipation, like severe constipation, and after a facial, they'll be able to go to the bathroom. So the nervous system plays a big role in letting your body know that it's okay to, whether that's responding to injuries that someone has, whether that is responding to just stress and overall. It's very much needed to be a daily practice for everyone, I feel.
I've got two questions. One is just a yes or no on question. Isn't the vagus nerve the same nerve that gives you that gut feeling? Because I know there is one. It's an actual nerve that gives you the gut feeling, but yeah.
The vagus nerve is connected. So it's in a sense why they call you also your digestive system your second brain. So the vagus nerve is going to let the digestive system know, again, hey, everything is okay. You can do what you need to do. And majority of our serotonin doesn't get released by the brain. It gets released in the gut. So if your vagus nerve isn't communicating to your gut that everything is safe, then you're not having your serotonin levels being released. And again, that's where depression and things also kick in.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy, but I'm proud of myself for remembering that. But anyway, the other question is, this might be a little bit off topic, but for interest's sake, if me and Annie were to do one of those facials, the resetting the nervous system, do you think our faces would change?
Majority of people, at least around the jawline, there's usually quite a difference because it does relax all of these muscles over here. So jawline, I usually after one treatment see a much more of a relaxed state. The softening around the eyes, it's very beautiful when I do the treatment. What I often wait for, sometimes I do it way longer than what it is. It's a 30-minute treatment, but it's never 30 minutes because essentially for me, what I'm waiting for is to have that third big sigh that they just naturally do. And then I know, okay, the body has really started to shift and get into that space.
It makes me think of, have you ever heard of BSR, body stress relief?
Yes.
So I do it here. I do it here in Pretoria, and I've actually, a few months ago, 2 months ago, I hurt my back. I used to do jiu-jitsu. I don't do anymore because of the back injury. I hurt my
Okay.
back so much so that, yeah, oh goodness, it's so painful. And I remember when I first went to it, before I hurt my back, like it was so relaxing. And it was so like, oh, don't stop, because it's really, you just feel so.
Yeah, it is.
And after I hurt my back, it's just pain every time I go. Every
Yeah.
time. But
Oh,
especially here.
yeah.
Especially here. Mm.
Yeah, because the vagus nerve goes really tight. This muscle here goes really, really tight, and that pulls on your jaw, and that's when then a lot of people start to clench. So it's a very beautiful way to just create a safe space for that person's body to realize, oh, actually, I can relax. I am safe being here and being in my body, and it's beautiful what that does for a person. And I don't think everyone always realizes the big impact it has, other than just feeling relaxed. The processes that it allows for your body to do now that you've done that, the cellular regeneration, stem cell, all of that gets just flushed and boosted within your body. Your liver is able to release enzymes and proteins that it normally holds onto if it's in survival state. It's able to release those into your body. So now cells are able to heal from that factor as well. So there's a lot going on that you don't even know and understand. But if you then can start to incorporate that on a daily basis in your own life, you will see a difference. My big shift when I started working with the nervous system in 2020, if I showed you a picture now of how I looked pre 2020, my face looks completely different.
Sure. That's
That would be
fascinating.
cool to actually have a
Yeah.
picture.
I'll
I
Please,
send
would
if
you.
you
like
find
to
a
see
picture,
that.
let's put it here. That would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is going to be a little bit of a longer conversation than our usual podcast, but I really do want to touch on the topic of microplastics.
Yes.
Alnika went through a phase where she was quite intrigued by microplastics, I remember, and then after that, I kind of went through a phase, and it's just fascinating. And
Mhm.
yeah, you are quite passionate about clean living and just how to kind of obviously improve your body. What kind of ways does microplastics find their way into our bodies, ways that we might not necessarily expect?
Can I, sorry,
One, which is my favorite since I'm the tea lady, which is your tea bags. So most of your tea bags, the material contains microplastics, and when you now put it in boiling water, you're infusing that into the water that you are drinking. So tea bags, I feel, is something that very few people even think of at all, which was quite a big shock to me when I started researching into that. Your cutting boards, so if you have a plastic cutting board, that slice that you're making is literally, if you can see a slice on your cutting board, where did those pieces go? Yeah. The sponges you use to wash, that yellow and green one, all of those break down and goes into either your water, which then pollutes the planet, obviously, but it can also remain microscopically on your utensils, and then you can consume it later on in that way as well. To take it even further, for me, the worst one recently is realizing that all black plastic utensils are made from electronic equipment that is melted down. And they contain fire, what do they call it? Fire, what is it? Man, no, my brain's not thinking of it. Fire retardant. It's a fire retardant chemical that it contains. And that now breaks down, especially when you, again, scooping something out of hot water, that breaks down and that goes into your body. And those are all forever chemicals. Your body doesn't know how to process it. Your body doesn't know how to break it down. It just gets to be stored in your fat cells, and then your body doesn't use that fat cell anymore. So now we have stored fat cells that doesn't get used for metabolism, and they're also not being broken down. And that's where the problem starts to happen with weight gain, and why people are not necessarily losing weight all the time, or why the fats around your organs are creating problems, because they contain metals, plastic, and other types of forever chemicals that just sit there.
it's a. So when I went to the microplastics thing, it's very difficult to avoid. it's very difficult to avoid because it's plastic has become this common use
Mm.
of everything
Clothing,
basically, and
polyester, nylon.
it's actually horrible, but it's okay. We all have to die at some point, I guess.
That is like my Roman
I'm
internet
joking.
comment that people make. I hate that comment.
No, I'm joking. It's true. We all do have to die at some point, but
I mean,
I would prefer if we die in our sleep instead of
yeah,
dying because we're suffocating
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
So it is a
How to
difficult thing.
minimize it? How to
Yeah,
minimize it? Let's take tea bags. We can eliminate tea bags quite easily and use the
water
containers that
bottles.
hold your tea. Yeah. Cutting boards, you can switch to wooden cutting boards. All of your utensils, switching over to bamboo or wooden utensils. The thing to just be careful of wooden utensils is what layers are they painting onto them. So if it's not like linseed, which is a natural one, you might be also risking getting those type of chemicals into your system as well that they use on wood. But yeah, cutting board, you can switch over to wood. Your sponges, you can switch over. There's been quite a few varieties. I think these are the two common ones that we use, made from coconut. The coconut, what do you call it? Coconut.
Oh, the outside,
outside, the top.
shell, the dop.
Yes, husk. Coconut husks. There we go. Husk. So they make this.
Okay.
So I've sorry to interrupt. I strongly believe in either using a glass water bottle or I've got a metal one with my name on it, and I love it.
Yeah.
My mother freaking, and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. She buys like small bottles of water and then she'll reuse them and leave them in the car, in the sun, and just sy sal hulle net uitspoel en weer volmaak, and I'm like, it's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's definitely something our older generation grew up thinking is absolutely okay. I think it's so hard to work with the older generation because they're so set in the ways and they do have that mentality of, ach, it's okay, my oma het lang gelewe. But your oma had less of these things in her life back then than you have right now. So you can't have that same reaction because the amount of things you're taking in, your grandmother most likely cooked with butter, you're cooking with margarine, which is seed oils. Your grandmother most likely used tallow also on her skin way back when, where you're using Nivea lotions and things that has all kinds of ingredients in it. And they most likely did for sure. Pre to Tupperware evolution, everyone was using wood and other utensils. So we can't have that same response because we are being flushed. We're being like burdened is the word that my mind's coming up with all of the things that's coming into our bodies and just from all different angles. But there are ways. I think it's just it's choosing what you can do in your life. I feel like in the beginning, it overwhelmed me so much to the point where I was like, how is everyone just accepting this? But it's because I went into this wanting to save the whole world from plastics, and you can't do that. It kind of freezes you from making the changes for your own life because you're just so overwhelmed the fact that what is my change going to do? Well, my change is going to affect my health. And let's start there. Let's start with my immediate family and who's in my household, and let's make changes there. And that's all you really can do. We can't save everyone. It's also not what we were meant to do.
Chantelle, I've got a question. It might be related, might not be related, but so you just mentioned Nivea cream. I don't use Nivea cream, but it's something I always struggle with my skin because of, and it's definitely because of hormone imbalances, and I do struggle with my skin. But
okay.
You can buy something I don't know when last you were in a Clicks or this game, but facial products are very expensive, very expensive. And you
Yeah.
do get cheap ones, and you do get to like ones that you can afford. That's not the cheapest.
Mm.
Um, my question actually is that what I just said doesn't matter. My question actually is like, what facial product do you
Mm.
recommend from a microplastic perspective and a hormone perspective? Is there one you can buy in store, or what
Something.
do you suggest?
So when I transitioned the first time over to not using anything store-bought, I went for a mix with castor oil, jojoba oil, and frankincense. That was my first switch over. My skin absolutely loved it. The frankincense has the boswellia acid that it contains specifically has one of the best cellular healing abilities. So it really just helps to keep your elasticity, your collagen levels where they need to be. It allows your skin to produce what it's meant to be producing because it creates a favorable environment for it to do so. So I went into that first. So that's something you can self mix. It is costly at certain, aspects, especially depending on what you used before. But using an oil based as a moisturizer, you use very little. So it does last you very, very long. However, my one that I've been most consistently using now is tallow based. So rendered beef fat. And it's because it's the closest molecular to our sebum. And it has all the vitamins A, D, E, and K, all the fat vitamins that is needed to create a supple, soft skin, hydration levels. And when your skin is hydrated, it is also less likely to burn from the sun. So then you're not able to get as much sun damaged. And it also then obviously has the elasticity and so on
I was
to
just
give
about to ask
volume.
about sunscreen.
Yeah, super against sunscreen. There's so many studies like cancer, literally skin cancer only started spiking when sunscreen came out. And it's because one of the ingredients is literally you putting petroleum on your skin. So you are cooking yourself from the outside. So for me, it's always been a very big gimmick. Now, to take it further, it's not just as easy as don't wear sunscreen, because with the amount of seed oils that we are consuming and the type of like really low quality oils that we're consuming, when you go in the sun, you're essentially cooking yourself inside out. But if you eat correct and your skin has all of the protection barriers in place, then the UV rays don't have the same effect. And so that's kind of where the studies that I've started doing and what I feel is true for myself is that if I'm not eating seed oils, which I'm not, and if I am putting the tallow on my face, like I am yet to sunburn since I've done that.
That's
Yes.
very interesting because it looks like you have a very white skin. Not to be like, it looks like you don't see sun, but I know you do because you surf. But me, I am like, I put sunscreen on my face every single day. And I
Yeah.
put, during summer times, I put sunscreen on my body as well because I absolutely hate the sun. You will
Yeah.
never find me in the sun unless I have to be there. I'm not a big fan, and I also have a very light skin,
Yeah.
which is funny. Like, the fact that I don't like the skin is merely because I don't like getting burnt and I don't like being in the sun, but I've got a
Yeah.
very strong skin. So I don't get, I'm like, no, I'm not like one of those people that turn red immediately when they're in the sun.
Okay.
Actually, I can if I want to, I can tan, but I hate it.
Okay.
So
Well, I think firstly is the relationship with the sun that needs to change because your body is listening to that, and that is a very strong reaction that might be happening. Yeah, the thing is, you've got obviously your pheomelanin and your eumelanin, and eumelanin is what gives darker skin, and pheomelanin is what gives you the lighter skin. So pheomelanin is more sun sensitive. It is going to create that red color a lot quicker than what eumelanin will do. And eumelanin won't really go red, it goes just darker. So my advice would really just be to have really well hydrated skin when you do go out in the sun. And that's the best advice I can give to people. But the problem with that is, what are they using for the hydration levels? And if there's a lot of fragrance in there, fragrance is literally going to cause pigmentation. And unfortunately, a lot of the things have fragrances in them, both lotions, both sunscreen. And then you have the what do you call it? Parabens, which are also sun sensitive within the ingredients. And then you have your preservatives, which are also sun sensitive. So yeah, listen, it's a big one, and there's not been 100% answer from it, even from a herbalism side and point of view. But just from my own experience, since I've reduced seed oil intake and since I've used tallow, I can spend a lot longer hours in the sun and have absolutely no problem.
Sure, that's fascinating. I wanted to raise earlier, but I'll just mention it now. The point about microplastics, the thing that really shocked me was that the average adult takes in roughly microplastics equal to the size of a credit card every week, which is like I definitely do not want to chew a credit card, so I don't want that in my body either way.
Yeah.
Very, very shocking.
Yeah. And your
Okay,
body
so
doesn't know how to get rid of that. So that once that's in there, it's in there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that is the sad factor, is we can't say that we just keep on living. No, it's going to have an effect at some point, whether that's dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whether that is MS, whether that it's going to affect some type of neural effect at some point, or it is going to cause a cancer in some areas. So yeah, I don't think it should be just accepted.
Yeah, it accumulates. That's the problem. At the end of the day, it's not like, okay, I have a credit card's worth of microplastics this week and next week it's out. Like, no, now you have two, technically.
Exactly.
Okay, so I really have to actually say thank you, because I am so fascinated by this conversation that I am definitely going to make a switch, at least in some of the easier microplastic situations. And I'm definitely going to somehow incorporate my cycle better in my own life. And yeah, so I appreciate that. That's the purpose of this podcast. I always try to find and point out the purpose of it. The purpose of it for me is at least to notice these things in our own lives as well. And that's beautiful. I really appreciate that.
Honor the body.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Our previous guest left a question for you, as they do every week. He asked, what does it mean to take 100% responsibility? And this can be in general, but what does it mean to take 100% responsibility with your health, your mind, your environment? What does that mean to you?
Okay, sure. Lekker one. 100% responsibility. I think it's taking the consequences into mind in some shape or form. And that consequences, whether that's relating to your own health or the consequences of people around you. Yeah, and just taking, like, if I'm feeling depleted and in a bit of a grumpy mood today, but I haven't done any active things to actually help that, and my lunch is a packet of chips and I'm having a Coke, and if I'm not taking responsibility as to why that is happening, then what are you even doing? For me, it's just, what is the consequences of not taking responsibility? And are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I think that is a good answer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And part of the conversation that we had last week is that it's also taking responsibility adds value and purpose to your life. And taking responsibility for your own health, for your own mind, and for the potential consequences of what you do. It's a recipe for a better life, or at least a more valuable life in my sense. Alnika?
Chantelle, where can we find out more? Where can people find you? I'm for instance, in Pretoria. I don't live down in Cape Town. So where can people like me get in touch?
How can we connect? I would say, obviously, if you're in Cape Town, to come to Table View site, and our shop is in Table View. And we have an array of eco-friendly products, whether that's household products or herbal remedies available. So if you do want to start making even just one switch in one aspect that you are aware and you are ready to switch, we can definitely make that a bit easier for you and help you with that. And obviously my treatments are here, and then we're able to connect a bit more on a deeper level in that sense. But anytime on our Instagram account, send me a message if you have a question. Like, I love it. If I don't know it, I will go and deep dive and rabbit hole research it for you. And if I can help you, obviously I'll give you all of the guidance that I can. But yeah, anytime, shoot me a message on Instagram and we can definitely connect through that way.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much to take the time to talk to us today. It was really, really awesome. I enjoyed it, and I'm sure Annie did as well.
Yeah. Thank you for your questions. They were really, really good. I loved it. And thank you for sharing this, because very few people are sharing this, especially in a very gentle, easy way. Like, it doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. There are so many herbs that are super easy to use and very friendly to use, and your body accepts them so beautifully. So there is definitely plants, and majority of people are already incorporating herbalism without knowing it. The herbs that you are using to flavor your food is herbalism. The oregano you're using in your food is an antibiotic. The thyme that you're using in your food is an antibiotic. So you already have antibiotic, anti-inflammatory ingredients. And I think it's just, taking it a bit further than just the cooking side of things, and how can I use it a bit more specifically, and play around with teas. It doesn't always just have to be a cup of rooibos. Add some buchu in there for immunity, add some echinacea, or just add a couple of other herbs with it. And the nice thing is you can really create a beautiful profile taste wise with teas, while still getting in a lot of plants that might be very pungent. So if you have a very pungent tea mix, just add hibiscus or chamomile and they will take over, and then you have a lekker tea.
Sure.
Thank you very, very, very much. Well, okay. As jy like wat jy hoor, subscribe en maak Ruhmoer.
Bye.
Bye.